Hey folks, Mark Scroggins and Rahna cutting back for another episode, or I should say another chapter of Family Law Talk. So we've been talking about all these different things going through a divorce, kind of akin to what Rahna's practice was prior to joining us, and then different things that she helps people in dealing with when going through a divorce and talking about some of the stuff after. One of the things so generally, not always, but most of the cases that we get hired on are when it is, or at least that I get hired on, or when it is what I will call a big nasty. Okay. People just, the amount of acrimony and just downright hatred towards the other person. I mean, if they told you that the sky is blue, they're going to call bullshit and go outside and look and still not believe their lying eyes, So when you have people that come out of something like that, how do you teach them let me rephrase this. How do you get them to understand first the amount of damage that they are doing by talking shit about the other parent in front of the kid? And then how do you get them to change that behavior? Is that a loaded question?
That's loaded.
There you go.
But we'll see what we can do.
Okay.
One of the questions I used to ask both parents when I did custody evals was, how would your child say that you feel about the other parent?
Right.
And their immediate response would be, well, I don't ever talk bad about them. And I said, it's not what I asked. How would your child say that you feel about their other parent? And sometimes people would be honest and they'd say, I hate them. And I'd say, how do they know that you hate that other parent? Well, because they know that we don't talk. And I'm like, that's not really going to show hatred. What does that look like? Well, they hear me yelling at them, or us yelling at each other, or that we text bad things. And of course, the kids a lot of times get to see the parent's phone or get to use the parent's phone, that kind of thing. I'll ask, how do you have the other parent listed in your phone? Asshole. Uh-huh. I'm like, what was that? Asshole.
Right.
And I said, okay, so if that's just written, I can imagine when you see that, you automatically say, yep, that's right. That's exactly what they are.
Right.
Your kid knows that's what you think about that other parent. So it goes back to, if they're half of me and they're half of you, what are they if the other person is 100% a jerk?
Right.
And there's no gray area. Are you going to maintain that mentality of, I hate you, I want nothing to do with you, we'd be all better off if you were dead? What is that going to do to your child?
Right.
How are you ever going to go to the band concert? How are you ever going to go to the soccer game? Mom's over here, dad's over here. The kid doesn't know which side of the field or the bleachers to look at when it's running down the field. Do you really want that for your child? What would happen if you said, I'm going to sit on the same side? We don't have to sit beside each other, but I can sit on the same side of the bleachers and not die, so that I can give my child the knowledge that their parents can tolerate each other.
It's funny because my daughter was a big-time volleyball player when she was a kid, and for years there were people on her club volleyball team's parents that had no idea that my ex-wife and I were divorced because we sat together in the stands and talked, and so to me it was just being polite, It didn't mean that at times there wasn't disdain that I felt for her.
Right.
And I'm sure that she felt disdain for me at times. But it was not something that we ever wanted to download, on the kid. Now, it doesn't mean that we were perfect about that all the time. But so how do you get someone to get, and I'm going to try to come, I guess, from a common sense standpoint. It's like what we were talking about a little bit with the whole, letting somebody live rent-free in your head. But I would also think that there's another piece to it about, if taking that power back, not allowing somebody to have that power. I mean, that's really kind of convoluted, but how do you get someone to look past the, that hatred or that animosity, to get to a point where they can really look at what is best for my child instead of how do I harm or hurt that other
Right.
person?
Well, I try to teach people we all need a new page every single day. I know I do. And it doesn't matter whether that other parent deserves a new page or whatever. Just give them one. And just, like you said, be respectful. Because there were times with my kid's dad, respect was like not on the top 500 things for me to want to
Right.
do with that.
Right.
But would you allow your children to be disrespectful to another adult? No, they don't have to like them, but they're going to respect that position,
Right.
whether it's the teacher or whoever it is.
Right.
And it's the same thing. You want to model, if you have to be brief when you talk to your child's other parent, brief, informative, friendly, and firm, and be done. But you don't have to carry all that stuff with you every time. Another layer of that is if you have friends or family, well-meaning, of course, who will say, oh, so did you go pick him up from Butthole's house?
Yeah.
That's not going to help you learn how to, get past this.
Right.
If you let them do that in your ear.
Right.
And so it's also a matter of kind of setting boundaries with your friends and family of, I understand that we all feel this way about that person. Let's not say those things. Let's not bring that forward, because all that does is just make me rehearse it in my head.
Right. Well, so this kind of takes us on to another area that I wanted to talk about, and it's a buzz phrase that we hear over and over of parental alienation. And parental alienation is a real thing. It is a rough, freaking evil thing, in my opinion. But it is thrown around much like the term narcissism is thrown around.
That word.
He or she is a textbook narcissist, and it's like, really?
Yeah.
Did your medical degree from Google help you out with that? It's not to say that, there aren't some textbook cases, and I've represented some, and I've represented people against them, and borderlines and all kinds of others. But some of this terminology gets thrown around too much. However, when you see someone that has really been the subject of parental alienation, what are the steps that are taken by somebody who used to do it in trying to, bring parent and child, the parent who has been alienated, to bring them back together? I mean, what do you do to try to make that happen?
Well, I think kind of even preliminarily before trying to bring them back together is evaluating, was that some intentional steps on the one parent that was like, you don't want to go over there, you're not safe, your mom is a terrible person. Is it very overt, intentional by one parent? Or has the alienated parent done some things themselves that have kind of caused some situations to where the child's like not as thrilled or doesn't feel as eager to go and spend time? So I'm going to first kind of evaluate what caused this, if I can get to that.
Right.
And then it's a matter of spending time with both parents individually, the child individually, to somewhat to help them understand if you as the favored parent, so to speak, don't strongly encourage your child to go through this process, you're teaching them that walking away from whatever you're uncomfortable with, it's fine. And that becomes a pattern the rest of their life.
Right.
They're like, you know what, this is too hard. I just need time. I just, let me do it on my own when I want to.
Yeah, that's not life.
No, it is not life. And so to really kind of give them a reality check of, this person is always going to be there to some degree. And even if they're not there physically, they're inside that child's head.
Yep.
And that child needs permission, needs encouragement, needs mandates that we're going to do this.
it's an interesting thing because there are some cases where, it's direct and you can see that. I think there are more cases of it where it is indirect. Yeah. And where it can even be seen it's being done, but under the context of protecting the child, which can be total bullshit. But they might not be able to see it that way because
Right.
there might be plenty that happen in the relationship between mom and dad that was not there between dad and child or mom and child. It was the toxicity of the relationship between mom and dad.
Right.
And maybe they did some, he or she did some really shitty stuff there, and then they're projecting that behavior onto the relationship between parent and child that doesn't actually exist.
Yeah, that parent is convinced that whatever that other parent did to me, I know they're going to do to our child, and I'm not going to let that happen. But we don't have any history of ever seeing that or thinking that, and the kids never said, Mom did this to me or Dad did this to me.
Right.
It was just the other parent saying, I'm not going to let that happen.
Yeah, you need to take this when you go over to mom's house, or you need to have this when you go over to dad's house.
And don't
well,
tell them.
Why would I need that? Mom's got that. Dad, mom's got that. I don't need. Well, you just never know. I mean, you don't know if she's going to be there, or you don't.
Yeah.
And so it's all under this warped perception of I'm protecting the child. So, how do you get someone out of that?
It's a long process, and it's usually a lot longer than the court gives you for reunification counseling, because they're like 6 sessions, and this should be all
tied up
in a bow.
Yep.
But I think if we realize it didn't get this way overnight, that do you really want your child to grow up, go off, and now resent you because you tried to protect them from someone that there's really no indication that they're dangerous?
Right.
Is that really what you want? And I'd have some parents say, I'll take the risk. That's when I have to have further court intervention that says, okay, Mom can't bring them to the reunification counseling, Dad brings them, whatever, just to kind of mix it up a little bit.
Right. Yeah, that stuff gets really, really scary to me. Because it can have such a huge impact, and it's almost akin to the stories you hear of, well, we were staying together for the kids. It's like, well, that's a real shitty reason, and now you've provided really, really bad role modeling for future relationships.
Exactly, and then the child also feels like, okay, they were miserable, but because of me,
right?
They hung in there and slugged it out till I'm 18, and it was awful, and I'm never coming home again.
Right.
And so, yeah, a lot of painful scenarios.
So, one of the other things, it's kind of akin to the payment of child support, where somebody wants an itemized list of, what Tic Tacs were bought for Junior and things of that sort, is how do you get someone to let go of they are not entitled to know everything that is going on in mom or dad's house when the kids are with them?
Oh, my gosh. I think sometimes that's an even bigger challenge than the one we just discussed about, I'm protecting you from when you go over to mom's house. But that whole itemized list, sometimes I try to talk to them about, do you know every single thing that you spend on your children every week? No, but I provide everything for them. So,
right.
Okay, so you don't know everything. They're not accountable to you for anything other than the health, welfare, safety, and education of y'all's children.
Right.
And so you don't get to know if they spent $10 on shoes and $500 on a video game or vice versa. You don't get to know that.
Right.
You're going to have to be okay with the fact that not everything's okay in your book.
Right.
So if you don't know it, you probably don't need to know it.
Yeah.
And as somebody who has received child support and paid child support,
Right.
it's a difficult concept to work through.
I'm sure it is. I had to let go of that stuff. I think, thank God, I'm a divorce lawyer, so I understood that. So I never had that questioning, but it's amazing how often I get that questioning. And then the other that, as soon as the kiddos come back, they want to start pimping them for information. And it's like, you cannot do that. You are causing all kinds of problems.
Yeah. Like, well, so who was there? So where'd y'all go? And well, who showed up? Did dad drink anything? Did mom have any wine when y'all were at the restaurant? And how many glasses did she have?
Right.
And it's like, that is not okay.
So what is the impact of that on a kid?
Well, because then a kid becomes the spy.
Yeah.
And either they're afraid to go back over there because they don't want to have to, I didn't see anything, I didn't hear anything, or they'll lie to the questioning parent because they want it to be in their favor.
Right.
It is a no-win situation when two people that you love don't love each other, and they've got to ask ins and outs about the other household.
Yeah. Well, thank you for all of this. I hope that we provided, I'm sure you did at least, provide some good information for our folks out there. So a few takeaways. Take care of yourself.
Yes.
That is the best gift that you can give, I think, both to you and your child.
Yes, and especially in the upcoming holidays, which are stressful in and of themselves, being married. If you're divorced or separated, that's a real important time to do that.
And be easy on yourself. Give yourself a break. Do something good for you. It's okay to have the roller coaster of emotions. That shit is normal. So be glad that you feel that. If you're flatlined, then it's Dexter out there.
That's
and
right.
that's
You
a
don't
whole
have a
nother
pulse.
show. Yeah, right. Exactly. Thanks, folks. Always tune in to Family Law Talk. We got some good information for you. If you've got a family law issue and you need some help, reach out. Can always get us at info@scrogginslawgroup.com, or you can call us 214-469-3100. And don't forget, we opened up a new office in Flower Mound just recently to better help our Denton County folks. So look forward to seeing you. Have a very happy holiday and a Merry Christmas.
Yes, thank you so much, Mark. Merry Christmas.